Hello again, I'm Robert Fithen, and I have officially reached the 15,000 subscriber mark. So I said when I did that, I would review albums that you want me to review when you left them in the comment section of the video where I mentioned that. And it is time now to do that. I'm not going to review these albums in any particular order, and I did get so many great suggestions that this is definitely going to be a multi-part video. So if you suggested an album and I don't get to it in this video, chances are it will be in an upcoming video. So like I said, I'm not doing these in any kind of order whatsoever, but I did want to do the very first one that was suggested first, and that was from Diesel65 that wanted me to review Alice Cooper Goes to Hell. And, so this was the very first suggestion I got, and I actually have the album, so that's another reason to do this one first. But this album has a very special place for me because it was the very first Alice Cooper album that I ever saw the cover for. It is in this book that I've talked about a few times in a few different videos that I got when I was about 7 or 8 years old, somewhere around there. My brother actually got this for Christmas, my older brother, because that's how my family worked. They liked to, it was then called Get Something Started. Today it would be called Drama. And, since I'm the big music fan in the family, even at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, I'm a huge music fan. All I want's records and tapes. So they decided to get my older brother this book with all the album covers on it for Christmas, knowing that I would want this. That's my family. Here's a Super 8 movie of that happening, and me wondering why in the world he would get this instead of me. But yeah, as you can see, Alice Cooper Goes to Hell is featured in this book. Not only a small picture, it's not that prominent, just a little album cover right there, but actually it is on the cover of the book right there and on the back cover as well. So yeah, pretty big kind of visual growing up, and so as soon as I found this album back in the late 90s, I picked it up. From 1976, this is kind of like the part 2 to Welcome to My Nightmare. Same character there, visiting with the devil, as it were, on a couple of the songs. The very first song is the title track, Go to Hell. Very clever, very clever. It works on kind of 2 levels. He's basically singing about if you do this, if you do that, you can go to hell, for being a brat and for being, breaking the rule, you can go to hell. Basically, it's kind of like telling somebody you can go to hell, or maybe he's giving a cautionary tale and saying, hey, watch out, if you do this, you can go to hell. So it works on both levels, like I said, very clever, nicely put together as well. Great way to start the album. It's got a nice big drums, big booming drums in this song. Really rocks the system there. So really like that song. Love the album opener. The second track as well, pretty clever in itself. Gotta Dance. A disco song. It is 1976, but it is Alice Cooper as well. And this one kind of works on 2 levels as well. It's a disco song about how you gotta dance. The beat's going on and, I feel the rhythm and I gotta dance. But it's also kind of evil, kind of ominous because this force is driving you and it's making you dance. It's making you hot. You're hot, but you're also shivering at the same time and you can't help but move. You're possessed by the music. So it's got that whole thing going on as well. I thought it was kind of clever as well. You got to dance. Next couple of songs are kind of more like throwaway tracks. I'm the coolest. He's just talking about, just kind of in this deep voice about how he's the coolest. And, didn't we meet? I Never Cry is after that. That is the single. Had that on a K-Tel record long before I ever got this when I was a kid. Didn't even realize that when I was listening to it on that K-Tel record that was a part of this album that I'd seen in that book. But I gotta say, I've never been a fan of the Alice Cooper ballads, no matter what era they're from. I, like a lot of other people, my favorite Alice Cooper is the Alice Cooper Band. The stuff from the early 70s, all those great albums in a row. That's the Alice Cooper for me. This is great. I like this. Welcome to My Nightmare is okay. I'm not a fan at all of the Poison era, the Trash, and Hey Stupid. No, I don't like that at all. But I've never liked Alice Cooper ballads, no matter what era they're from. They just don't do anything for me. I can appreciate some of them, how, they're stark, they're real, they're earnestly written. This one about his drinking issue that would just become uncontrollable. He'd have to, go to rehab and all that and cancel the tour and all that. So I get that they're real, they're stark. I'm not a fan of Alice Cooper ballads. I never have been, any of them. and this is another one. Kind of has that duality as well. You got the light rock music going along with him basically, I never cry, you know. So I get it, but it just doesn't work for me. Side 2 kicks off with a fun one, kind of a doo-wop thing without the actual doo-wopping. You know, give the kid a break. He's literally having a conversation with the devil. He's in hell now. Because, you know, he went to hell. And so he's in hell now, you know, begging the devil, almost like it's like a court case and the devil's the judge or whatever. Begging him, you know, hey, give me a break, man, for heaven's sake. And then the devil's like, hey, watch your language. So, you know, you got fun stuff like that. It's a cool little song. Great way to start side 2. Guilty's all right, too. Nice upbeat stuff there. You got a couple more throwaway stuffs. And then we get into the schmaltzy kind of musical stuff. I'm always chasing rainbows and going home where, you know, it kind of sounds like he's in a musical and it's kind of overdone and, you know, with the strings and everything. So this has got some really nice moments on it. It's got some kind of forgettable moments, and it's got some moments, especially at the end of both sides, that I would just skip over. So kind of an uneven album, but a lot of his albums from this era and a little bit later are extremely uneven. So this is kind of where that starts. But still, iconic album cover for me. Like I said, I love this album cover. I remember seeing it in that book when I was a kid and thinking, man, this has got to be the most evil album ever. You know, not realizing the satire and the sarcasm and whatever that's actually in this album. But yeah, glad to be able to talk about this because I would recommend this for Alice Cooper fans. If you like the band Alice Cooper, like myself, and you want something that kind of is in more of that vein, less of the glammy rock constrictor kind of era stuff, I would definitely suggest this, especially the beginning songs on the two sides there. Alice Cooper Goes to Hell. Great way to start this review. You get the lyrics on the inner sleeve there, and they let you know that it's actually a bedtime story. So yeah, glad to review that one. All right, next up is a band that Vinyl Richie has recommended, and he only recommended the band. So I had to choose the album for myself, and I went with their most recent album, and that is the Death Valley Girls and Island in the Sky. I think Islands in the Sky is their fifth album. Started off putting out stuff, I think, in 2014. Islands in the Sky is from last year. And yeah, Death Valley Girls, had not heard of these ladies, was not familiar with them at all. They are a West Coast group. Like I said, you know, current. So, you know, this just came out last year. And they really do have a nice sound that's a blend of different styles. They've kind of got like a 60s girl group surf rock thing in there somewhere, mixed with like an 80s retro 60s sound, like an 80s band that wants to be in the 60s. They kind of sound like that, but then again, they're not an 80s band, so they kind of sound like a retro, a double retro, if you will. But yeah, there's a little bit of goth, you know, kind of eeriness going on there, kind of a foreboding kind of sound. But they also have a very fun sound. So it's all these different things going on at the same time. The vocals are very significant in here because the vocals are all mixed with the same kind of processing. It's very, very shrill, but echoey. And it kind of sounds a little bit like the same type of thing as like Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats do, where it's way up here, it's very shrill, but it's echoey, and so yeah, it's just a really nice blend of a lot of different styles there, and they really kind of have their signature sound. I don't know how their other albums sound. I'm just speaking about Islands in the Sky, but you go from tracks that sound kind of gothic, like I said, you know, a little bit eerie, and then you have just full on ones that sound just like pop songs. Like there's this one called What Are the Odds? You know, what are the odds that we're all living in a synthetic world and I'm a synthetic girl? It sounds like it could be like a, you know, like Go-Go's or something like that. It definitely could sound like a hit single or something like that. But it does still have that vocal processing on it and that echoey kind of sound to make it kind of sound more like lo-fi type of stuff. So it's not this polished, you know, ready for radio type sound. So I don't want you to get that idea because I said Go-Go's, that it sounds like some sort of new wave, you know, real bright, sunshiny kind of thing. It's not. But yeah, I'm glad I listened to this. I don't know if I'll get the vinyl of this eventually, but it is an interesting sound. They are an interesting group, and Death Valley Girls, Islands in the Sky is the one I chose. I'm going to go and probably listen to a couple more of their albums and then probably pick out my favorite of the 2 or 3 that I listened to and maybe get a vinyl of that. See if there's something that's more in my lane there. But this one's pretty interesting. I did enjoy this. But yeah, definitely Death Valley Girls. If you like the kind of retro sound mixed with like a current kind of lo-fi, echoey Uncle Acid type thing going on, you definitely want to check them out. Next up is an album that Nick Babashoff wanted me to review, and that is The Bubble Puppy, A Gathering of Promises. As you can see, I have this on CD. I had this for years. Hot Smoke and Sassafras, their big song. So if you know that song, it is The Bubble Puppy. Big, huge psych single, as a matter of fact. Yeah, there it is right there. One of the people on the American Artists label. They also had 13th Floor Elevators and The Golden Dawn. Any excuse to show my Golden Dawn album, Power Play, that I got for 50 cents. Just love that. Anyway, Bubble Puppy. Just great garage rock. Not really a psych thing. There's not a lot of psych effects, or there's none of that keyboard. The guitar really isn't too fuzz. It's more of just a straight ahead rock thing. But I hate calling these guys a garage band because they sound a little more, not really polished, but they sound a little more, I don't know, skilled, a little more inventive than that. They're basically an early version of a hard rock band. But their vocals are not that guttural, hard rock, bluesy type thing. A lot of it is their harmonies. They do harmonies throughout most of their songs. And when one of them is just singing, it is kind of a double-tracked thing, or maybe a vocal effect thing, so it sounds like multiple people. But a lot of it is the harmonies, and sometimes they sound like the Byrds, really, like early Byrds. But yeah, The Bubble Puppy, it's a great album. All the way through. Basically, like I said, just a lot of rock guitar with great harmonies. And I wish these guys would have blown up a little bit bigger, but like I said, most people just know the Hot Smoke and Sassafras song, which is a great song. It definitely is it got that nice guitar groove in there. And then the title of the song makes you think it's some kind of psychedelic thing or drug-related thing or whatever. But the rest of the stuff on here is fairly straightforward, either love songs or just songs about the nature or something like that. Hurry Sundown is on here, but it is their own song. These are all originals, I believe. That one's their own. It's not the same as the Outlaws song. The CD that I have was put out by Fuel 2000, and as you can see, has 18 tracks instead of just the 10 on the album. So, it has a lot of the mono A-sides and actually some A-sides on here that aren't even on the album, some B-sides as well. So you get a lot of extra tracks, not just mono versions. But it's a great album if you're into just straightforward rock. Not a lot of flourishes, not a lot of effects going on, not a lot of kind of weird, otherworldly kind of mystical lyrics. I would definitely suggest The Bubble Puppy. Crazy name, They probably would have gone farther if they would not have named themselves The Bubble Puppy, but, you never know. But, I remember seeing this album, and it was always in pretty poor condition. But I remember seeing this used to be like a $30, $40, maybe $45 album. This thing has skyrocketed in price. It's like a $100 album now. So it is right up there with the great garage rock and psych releases that are, that have entered the triple figure land. So I'll probably just stick with my CD. This sounds great. And it's got all those bonus tracks on there. So liner notes and everything. And speaking of notes, it is one of the albums featured in the book that I just got that everybody's showing called The Acid Archives, the second edition. However, they did not, they don't really say too much about it. They're more concerned about the different reissues and the stickers that you can get on the shrink wrap and stuff like that, and the dead wax info and whatever. But they don't even have the cover art. Which, that guy's got ruffles on. How are you going to just be dismissive of ruffles? They should have put that album artwork in there. But, yeah, Gathering of Promises, The Bubble Puppy, definitely recommend it if you don't have that and you like the straightforward guitar rock with some nice harmonies. All right, so before we go any further, I do just want to say that I did review Exile on Main Street. That was one of the suggestions I got in the comments, and I'm not ignoring that one. I did that one in a previous video. The last video I put up before this one, so if you're waiting for that one, it's already been done. So we move on to Agent Orange from 1981, Living in Darkness. It was someone calling themselves Crazy Music Geek that wanted me to review this one, and glad I did. Agent Orange was a group that, I knew the name, California punk band. I think this album came out in 81, so it's part of that whole 1980, 81 sort of U.S. punk, response to the 77, 78 UK stuff. It took a while to, get over across the ocean there. But yeah, Agent Orange, the only song I was really familiar with, I really liked. So I don't know why I never investigated them further. But I had this CD, I think I got this when I was like 21, 22, something like that. Faster and Louder, hardcore punk. You had Volume 1, Volume 2, put out by Rhino. And you think, well, Rhino, what do they know about punk? This has so many great, just hardcore punk stuff on there. These are all pretty much essentials. And Agent Orange, Bloodstains was definitely one of my favorites from this 2 CD collection there from Rhino. But I used to listen to that thing over and over and over. I know that was such a great introduction to the U.S. punk like that. But yeah, Bloodstains, Speed Kills, rich girls, fast cars, speed, whatever. I lost my sense, I lost control, I lost my mind. Something about what's the stupid fantasy. Anyway, love that song, and it is on this album as well, but it's a different version because that's how they always did it with the punk rock stuff. They would have the single version, which was usually better, unless you're the Dead Kennedys, and then the album version would be like a re-recording later on, where they would usually slow it down or take some of the rawness out of it, redo it, polish it up a little bit, and I definitely prefer, now that I've heard the album version of Bloodstains, the single version of that. I don't know what's on the B-side. I need to check that out. But this got a lot of great songs on there too, but it doesn't have the kind of raw screaming vocal that that single does. This one, it's more of actual musical. It's, songs like No Such Thing even has like a little bit of vulnerability in the sound. Like he kind of almost whispers in some of the lyrics there. Cry for Help in a World Gone Mad, just that title shows you that, they're kind of getting away from just the visceral kind of sound and really being a little more introspective. Like I said, a little more vulnerable. But the music is still quite, raw. It's kind of pushed in the background. The vocals are way up front. But I don't know, like I said, I don't know why I didn't hear this album long before that. I'm not familiar with any other Agent Orange either. They come out with an album about every 5 years, 6 years, something like that. I think the last one they came out with was sometime in the 2010s. So they were still going at it, years and years and years later. But this was their debut from 1981. Living in Darkness from Agent Orange. One of the only albums that I'm reviewing in this particular video. That there's another one coming up that I liked enough to where I put it in my want list. But unfortunately, it is a 1981 punk album, so it goes for about $90 to $100. So probably won't be getting it off of Discogs. Maybe I'll find it at a yard sale for 25 cents. Counting on that. But yeah, Agent Orange, Living in Darkness. Thank you, Crazy Music Geek, for suggesting this one because it's been too long, at least since I heard that Bloodstained song. Even though this is like a different version, I definitely had to go back and listen to my old louder and faster Hardcore Punk Volume 2 CD from Rhino. We move on now to John Galdieri's suggestion, and he wanted me to review the debut album from Mr. Bungle. John is from New Jersey, he says. And Mr. Bungle is another one of those bands I heard right around the same time, maybe a little bit later. It was right around 1992, 93. We had this at the college radio station, just a single for the first track on the album, Quote Unquote, which was previously known as Travolta, until John Travolta said, yeah, go ahead and take my name off that, or I'll sue. Quote Unquote is what they retitled it. It's not only about John Travolta, it's also about Patrick Swayze and Adolf Hitler. Narcissists and whatever, although I always heard that Patrick Swayze was a real down-to-earth guy, but anyway, they didn't see him that way. But enough about that. Mr. Bungle, overall, the CD is just craziness. It's just manic through the whole thing. It's just an exercise in I think it's Mike Patton from Faith No More. I think it's just him sowing his wilder oats, even wilder than Faith No More. This is a guy who, when Ministry was out and they had that side project, The Revolting Cocks, I remember the guy was like, Ministry is weekdays, Revolting Cocks is The Weeknd. And that's how I feel about Mr. Bungle. Like, this is Mike Patton on The Weeknd, just being crazy. And there are a lot of crazy styles in this. It's all over the place musically. It goes from like jazzy kind of stuff to with the horns and the saxophone and everything to like funk to like heavy metal to just basic hard rock to just crazy sounds like a psychotic circus. If you had one of those movies where, you know, it was some crazy circus is coming to town and killing everybody or whatever, this could very well be the soundtrack. The cover art, as you can see, features some whacked out clown, very much from the early 90s. This thing is a product of 1990, 91. I mean, it's got it all over. It's got the sampling going on. It's got the whole movie dialogue drops. A lot of it is from Blue Velvet, the part where Dennis Hopper's going off on how he hates warm beer, makes him puke. He adds a few words, but they've got that on there. You know, various movie porn drops from porn movies in the song The Girls of Porn, which is just, that's another thing that just screams 1990, 91, besides the movie drops and the crazy circus kind of clown stuff, is it's just extreme in its nature. It's just the profanity and the, you know, just being as nasty as you can be, especially in that Girls of Porn song, just talking about all kinds of sexual positions and sexual things in the most street terms as possible. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, obviously they're trying to be provocative. They're trying to be edgy. They're trying to be, as we said in the 90s, extreme. But it just comes off now as kind of dated and quaint. It's like, oh, listen, they're trying to be shocking. Oh, you know, that's how I think of when I hear Mr. Bungle these days. Back when it was out, I only heard the full-length CD maybe once or twice. We played that quote-unquote song a little bit on the radio, so I was definitely more familiar with that. But yeah, it's just all over the place. It's just manic. It's just totally manic. Totally 1990, 91. Like I said, with the movie drops and the crazy, you know, over-the-top nastiness. And yeah, it just sounds like Mike Patton when he's just, you know, I can't do this in Faith No More, so I'm just going to let it all out on this Mr. Bungle project. I think they had 2 more albums after this, but it is just it's just insanity put on, you know, put onto, I was going to say vinyl, but actually digitized and put on a digital disc. But yeah, I don't even know if this is available on vinyl. It is long. Another thing that just screams 1990, 91 is it's the full CD. It's the full length. I mean, I think a CD at that time held like 74 minutes. I don't know when they switched over to the 80-minute one, but you know, so it's like 73 minutes long. So, I mean, that's how it was in 1991. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magik is another example of that, where they used every little bit of the CD they could use, and so does Mr. Bungle. But yeah, it was nice to revisit this and just kind of be like, I remember the extremeness, the extremity, I guess. I don't know. Mr. Bungle, but thanks, John, for recommending that one. And so next up is a suggestion from the channel Lucky Spins, and the album is from St. Paul and the Broken Bones. The album they wanted me to review is called Sea of Noise from 2016. I've heard of St. Paul and the Broken Bones. I think I saw them on like one of the late night shows performing one time. I don't remember which one it was. I don't watch those shows a lot. It's just kind of like a passing thing. I think they've been involved in some movie soundtracks as well. So you kind of catch them here and there. But never heard like a full album. I don't remember what their music sounded like or whatever. But they are a pretty great R&B type soul band from I want to say Alabama. Music's great. I love the fact that organic soul R&B music has kind of come back. We're done with that 90s, early 2000s thing for the most part. I mean, there's still the hit stuff, you know, the top 40, whatever, where they're using all the samples and drum machines and production, you know, trickery and stuff like that. I'm glad that we're back to a more organic sound, and bands feel like they can put out albums like this and have careers like this, basically, where it's all organic. It's just a band playing, multi-talented musicians just getting together and making a group and releasing albums. I think the music really sounds that way. It just sounds like a great band playing, very tight. Music sounds, you know, very, very much interesting and thought out. It's not just like a jam session or something like that. The arrangements are fully realized, And yeah, it sounds like great music. There's not a lot of, I guess, innovation going on. There's not a lot of crazy, wow, what was that? It's just great R&B soul music. The kind of a thing that you would like to just go into a club or something unassumingly and just hear this band playing and go, wow, this is great. I'm having a great night now. So that's basically what the St. Paul and the Broken Bones is to me. A band I would love to just walk into a club. I mean, obviously, I think they're a little too big for that. You would buy a ticket, you would know who they are, you'd go see them live. But it's that kind of a thing for me. The only, I hate being negative when it's stuff that people specifically ask for me to review, but not crazy about the vocals. It's just that kind of vocal style. I've never been a fan of that. It's kind of that Al Green register, but a little more. I can't really describe it. It's that kind of almost low falsetto type thing. That kind of that kind of thing. So not crazy about the vocals, but everything else is great. Again, and it's the kind of band I would like to see live more than actually listen to an album and pick apart the music and whatever. They would make a great live band, and coming out with music in the 2010s. I'm assuming 2020s as well, unless they've broken up and I don't know about it. It's the kind of thing that you would want to go see live and see somebody in their prime putting out albums, having a fan base, and not somebody who was popular, 45 years ago who's still kind of hanging on. So yeah, great band I would assume to see live. Vocals are not my thing, but the music is stellar, so thank you for recommending that. Speaking of vocals, we move on to Psychedelic's suggestion, and that is Arcesia, and one of the two, and the album is called Reachin' from 1972. This is one of those private press things that Psychedelic loves so much. He has access to so many incredible underground albums that I probably have not heard, that I would become an instant fan of. Why you go and suggest this one? This is the kind of thing that I think people like and listen to ironically. It's one of those kind of private presses. 300 copies made. I looked on Discogs. It's never been sold on Discogs. It's not being sold on Discogs. This is extremely rare. Like I said, put out in 1972, reissued by the Gerson label. And yeah, so it's one of those things that they've dug up and hyped up, and oh my God, you got to hear this. This is incredible. We are reissuing it. Apparently the master tapes are lost. The reissue is like a vinyl drop thing. But so there's some confusion as to which side 1 and side 2 is, because it's been bootlegged so many times. From my understanding, Pictures in My Window is the first song you want to hear. So if that's in the middle of the stream that you're doing, you want to start in the middle and then go back to the beginning to hear proper side 1 and 2. Well, this guy apparently had a career in the early 50s as one of those crooner types. His reputation was kind of soiled by, I don't know if it was his manager or somebody started up this rumor, which was basically a gimmick that said just the sound of his voice would throw a woman into some sort of trance, like an aphrodisiac or something like that. And yeah, obviously that's ridiculous. And especially when you hear the guy's voice that sounds like this through the whole album, and this is the way he sings, and it's called psychedelic rock, and there's really only one track on the whole album that could be considered psychedelic, and that's called Soul Wings, which is the second song, because it has an organ at the beginning and a little bit of an effect. That's the way the guy sounds through the entire thing. Again, it's an ironic listen. It's definitely, it's something that you can share with your friends and be like, man, you got to check this album out once. There's a song on there called Raining Sunday. I think that's the last track. It has rain in it, rain sound effect, so that makes that one a little bit different. But pretty much, this is the way the whole album sounds. With him singing like this, I can't imagine a voice like this, putting a woman into a sexual trance where she's just uncontrollable. Arcesia, Reachin', which, it's a great title, 1972. Thank you, Psychedelic, for that. I'm gonna go ahead. Have you ever, by the way, and I'm speaking right to Mr. Derek here, have you ever reviewed this album on your own channel? Because I don't remember that. I don't remember a review for this. Put a link if you have. I'd like to see your review of this album. And if you want to hear it yourself, everyone, it is available to stream. But you have to, it's stuff that somebody has just randomly uploaded the record, which I'm sure, I don't know how much this thing goes for, but because it's, like I said, it's never been sold on Discogs. It's not on Discogs right now, and only 300 copies for an original. So yeah, check it out for something completely ironic and to kind of go, oh my God, wow, how is this released type of thing. But yeah. So we're up to Iron Butterfly now, and the album is called Metamorphosis. This was suggested by Bruno Hebert, and I think that's how you say his last name. But yeah, this is Iron Butterfly. Most people know this one, Inagata de Vida, the song. Takes up all of side 2. I mean, if you psychedelic rock, this is an absolute staple. And you see this album everywhere. I mean, you see this album in the $20 bin. You see this album in the $2 bin. This album, there's so many copies of this floating around. It was in print for like 30 years. And so there's no shortage of Inagata de Vida from Iron Butterfly. And this is the one that, a lot of people have that. A lot of people have seen that. You see this one occasionally. Ball, you see this one every once in a while. Heavy, this one, usually you see more than this one. They're all pretty good. They're decent. I've never seen this one, though. This Metamorphosis. I do not. I saw the cover of that, and I'm like, I don't recognize this cover at all. Which is crazy, because Iron Butterfly records, like I said, they're just everywhere. But I don't remember ever seeing that cover. So, new Iron Butterfly, to me, I think this came out in 71, 72, something like that. They have abandoned completely at this point the whole, like, trippy, psychedelic, groovy, whoa, far out, man. 16-minute long song, whoa. They've abandoned that and pretty much gone straight forward to just blues rock and with some boogie rock in there as well. And to make a decent album. I mean, that's what Iron Butterfly does. They make decent albums. There's nothing on here that really grabbed me like, oh, wow, crank that up, play that again. But the whole album is a decent listen. It's a decent early 70s blues rock, kind of boogie rock album. It does have some nice guitar moments with some nice guitar hooks going on, but again, nothing that's like, wow, nothing that's like, nothing that is iconic, obviously. I mean, they only had the one iconic song, but nothing that really grabs me, but it's a I don't know what to say, it's a decent listen. I've said that 3 times now, but that's what it is. It's a decent listen. If you like Iron Butterfly, you like the Heavy album or the Ball album, you definitely need to check out Metamorphosis. I will say that a few of the tracks on this album are actually better than a lot of the stuff on side 1 of Inagata de Vida. So, but yeah, I liked it. I don't really have anything though to like latch onto and really dive into and sort of put a spotlight on and say, yeah, but this part though really nailed it. There is one thing that they had the 16-minute long Inagata de Vida, or 18 minutes, or however long it is. They do have a 13-minute song on this one that concludes the album called Butterfly Blue, which doesn't have that constant groove that Inagata de Vida had. Certainly, like I said, none of the trippiness or whatever. It kind of breaks down into this kind of like, just kind of nonsense part with the guy making noises and stuff like that. But one thing I noticed, it does have a talk box, which is a really early use of that. It's an early version of the talk box, I think. In fact, I'm listening to it, I'm thinking that's what it is. Like the talk box that, Bob Heil, shout out to Bob Heil, rest in peace, from St. Louis, lived in Belleville, Illinois for years. Local people represent. Bob Heil worked with the Grateful Dead and their whole sound system. But introduced kind of updated the talk box. If you still don't know what I'm talking about, It's the thing that Peter Frampton uses in Do You Feel Like We Do? That Rocky Mountain Way from Joe Walsh has it. Nazareth Hair of the Dog has it slightly. It's kind of harder to hear in that song. If you're more into the disco thing, Foxy had it in the song Get Off. But yeah, it's that, and you could see them perform it. They have like a tube coming out of their mouth. I don't know, whoever thought that was a good stage presence to look like that, but it's that sound. And these guys were doing this at this point. So really kind of an early use of that in the Metamorphosis album and the very last track there. I was kind of surprised to hear that. But yeah, overall, just a decent listen is the best thing I could say about Iron Butterfly's Metamorphosis. I'm not, if I see this for like $5 or something, I might pick it up eventually, but it's not something I'm going to be like, oh my God, gotta have that album now. But I did appreciate getting to hear that, just another great, Iron Butterfly record. And finally, we have the band The Boston Tea Party with their self-titled album from 1968. This was suggested by the channel Melody Finder, who was nice enough to place the entire album on YouTube on that channel, so I could actually hear it because it's not officially available on, an official channel or anything like that. The Boston Tea Party, basically a garage rock band, but a really good one. I was familiar with this album very, very slightly. I mean, I heard it years and years ago and kind of forgot about it. It is not in that Acid Archives book either. I was kind of surprised it was not in there. But yeah, great stuff. If you like the organ, if you like that organ that's always in the garage rock songs from the late 60s, mid 60s, it's all over this album. So you got to like that. Also, the nice guitar playing, some nice rock guitar riffing in there, and solos and stuff like that. These are talented guys. So yeah, the Boston Tea Party, I'm not that familiar with the individual members, but I do know it is on the Flick Disc label, which was distributed by MGM. It only had 3 albums on that label. Really cool album label design as well, as you can see there. Always liked that Flick Disc label. It had this. They had the St. John Green album and The American Revolution. And unfortunately, this is the only album of the 3 that I have on that particular label, and this is by far the worst album. Yeah, the Boston Tea Party, much better than this. Some lyrics in there kind of expand on the usual garage rock arena there with things about, race relations. They have a song in there about that. A song about not wanting to get married, though. It can't conform me. I don't want to live that kind of life. I want to be wild and free, and I don't want to get married, and that whole thing. They have a song on there, too, that's interesting. Probably the most psychedelic sounding song, which isn't really way out or anything. But it's called We Have Died Already. It gets confused with the band Orphan Egg because they were both featured a lot on a soundtrack called The Cycle Savages, and that song was accidentally credited to Orphan Egg. So then when the Orphan Egg album got re-released on CD, you know how they do that with a bunch of bonus tracks? They put that track on there, even though it's not Orphan Egg, it's actually the Boston Tea Party doing that song. And Orphan Egg usually will get confused with this band as well, called Nucleus, because their album covers look very similar. So, yeah, the Boston Tea Party, just like the Standells, talking about Boston. They're not from Boston, they're both from LA. So, yeah, just showing some different albums there, so I have something to show while talking about this one. But yeah, this is groovy stuff. Like I said, a very talented band for, the garage rock kind of sound. And I think I need to pick this album up eventually. Of course, the bad thing is that the Flick Disc albums, like I said, there's only 3 of them on that label. They're not into like re-releasing vinyl or putting it out, or people aren't picking it up and re-releasing it or whatever. So I'm assuming maybe there's a master tape issue or something like that. And in order to do an LP reissue, they would have to basically, I don't know, just get a vinyl thing and just do a needle drop reissue of that. So probably going to get the original eventually, which isn't badly, I mean, it's not hugely expensive or anything. It's probably like a $45, $50, $40 album, somewhere around that range. But yeah, Boston Tea Party, thank you for recommending that. It had been too long since I've heard it. Like I said, groovy stuff, nothing way out, nothing like psychedelic, blow your mind, effects going everywhere and swirling and whirling and mystical lyrics. There's none of that, but it is a nice garage rock record. It's kind of been forgotten about too. Nice cover art on there as well from the Boston Tea Party, so thank you, Melody Finder, for suggesting this one. And that's going to wrap it up for the video of your suggestions, at least this time around. If you suggested a video to me in that video I did 2 videos back, where I asked for those suggestions and you didn't see it on this video, chances are it's probably coming up in a future one. I'll do a couple more in this series, try to get through a lot of these albums, because I really appreciate everybody that watches the channel and comments and that suggested albums for me to listen to and help me celebrate the whole 15,000 subscriber threshold. So thank you again for watching. My name is Robert Fitton. Hopefully I will talk to you again soon.